Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but very few people really understand what they're getting into before they begin. And it doesn't help that there are so many myths out there about entrepreneurship. But I think that if you really want to be both successful and fulfilled, you've got to go into this with your eyes wide open. My name is Marisa Murgatroyd, and I've helped over 10,000 students launch their businesses and their products online. And there's always this moment when a student starts to bump up against what they thought entrepreneurship is and what it really is. And sometimes that can feel a little dispiriting or discouraging unless you get that that's all part of what it really is. Because entrepreneurship is both everything you imagine and not what you think. My grandfather, Grandpa John, was the first and only entrepreneur that I knew for probably the first decade or two of my life. And he had this crazy junkyard filled with odds and ends that the family kind of tolerated, but kind of didn't, because he was a builder. He was a real estate man. He built most of the town of Wisconsin Rapids where he lived, and everybody thought that he was just a little bit crazy. And my dad, well, he wanted nothing to do with entrepreneurship because in his eyes, it was just a little too risky and a little too uncomfortable. And he wanted his only daughter to do something else, to work for a well-respected institution. Now, I'm over a decade on my path as an entrepreneur, and he still doesn't really get it because from the outside, entrepreneurship really is more myth than it is reality. And those myths can be dangerous if you're not aware of them and you don't know what to expect, because they might either psych you out or give you a picture of entrepreneurship that doesn't really square away with what it really is about. So once you start down the path, you're a little surprised and it feels like a rude awakening. So let me share the 10 myths about entrepreneurship that I've discovered over my decade or so path as an entrepreneur, helping over 10,000 students. And the very first myth is that anybody can be an entrepreneur. And while it's true that anyone technically can be an entrepreneur, most people don't want it enough. They haven't developed the resourcefulness, the resilience, the self-motivation, and the discipline to really succeed as an entrepreneur. Because a lot of times you're out of your comfort zone. You're doing things that may have been done before, but not by you. There's no one there to show you step by step exactly what to do each step of the way. And even though you can hire coaches like myself to really shine the light on the trailhead, you've got to walk the path yourself. And here's the thing. Out of the 7.9 billion people in the world right now, just over 7% are entrepreneurs. That's 582 million people. Now, you just very well may be one of those 582 million people. But let me share some of these other myths, because they may have given you the wrong idea about who you need to be and what entrepreneurship is really all about. So our second myth is that entrepreneurs are these innovators and these creative geniuses who are just coming up with nothing and creating kind of new worlds. But the truth is, entrepreneurs are really problem solvers. And sometimes a solution to a problem isn't particularly creative or particularly innovative. So here's the thing. Years ago, my husband Murray and I were living in San Diego, and we see this gigantic yacht. And we end up looking it up, and apparently it's a $28 million yacht. It might have even been $280 million, I can't remember now. And it was owned by this German screw manufacturer. Someone who made billions of dollars manufacturing screws. So Murray and I called this boat the screw boat. And every single time we walked by, we sang the screw boat, and I can't sing. It's clearly not my destiny to be a singer. But it was the screw boat. And we thought it was so amazing that someone could become a billionaire making screws. But it wasn't just the guy who owned this yacht. One of my dad's best friends from college, Dan Sieben, also made millions by making one part that went in stands that hold billboards up in the air. That's it. He made millions of dollars, became independently wealthy by making this one part that everybody needed to, put their billboards up into the air. So entrepreneurs aren't necessarily innovators. They're not necessarily creative geniuses, though many of them are. They're people who figured out how to solve a problem in a particular way. And I love the work of Roger Hamilton, who created the wealth dynamics, because Roger Hamilton identified 8 different paths for creating wealth. based on your design as a human being. And when you understand your design, you can create wealth in a way that's aligned with you. You're really finding that path of least resistance and greatest reward. And for some people, people like me, it might be through being a creative and a visionary and an innovator, because according to Roger Hamilton's, framework, I'm what's called a creator. So that's what I do. But we have students who are lords, who make money more through passive income and numbers and metrics and being behind the scenes. We've got students who are stars, who make money by going onto YouTube all the time. We have students who are deal makers, who make money through relationships and forming partnerships with other people. So you don't necessarily have to be an innovator or creative genius. You just have to understand your design and embrace that as your path for creating wealth around solving a problem that you are uniquely designed to solve. Now that leads me to myth number 3, which is you're either born an entrepreneur or you're not. Now, I believe that entrepreneurs are made and they're not born, and they're often made through a combination of necessity and opportunity. And the reason why I believe that is a huge percentage of entrepreneurs, at least in the United States where I live, are immigrants. Something like 25% of entrepreneurs in the US are immigrants. And over 50% of the businesses that reach billion-dollar status were started by immigrants. The reason why I think that that's the case is because immigrants oftentimes are coming to the US with nothing. And it's that necessity that brings out the resourcefulness in them, the desire to solve problems in new ways, to change their circumstances, to change their environment, to change their reality. Versus someone who might be born to more comfortable circumstances, who doesn't have that necessity to solve a problem and create something new. Now, that doesn't mean just because you have more that you can't become an entrepreneur. It just means you've got to figure out where that necessity is for me. So for me, because entrepreneurship wasn't supported, that gave me the necessity to say, you know what? I am meant to do this anyway, and I'm going to do this because this is who I am and this is what I was born to do. And that also gives me the motivation to help so many other people who also felt that this pathway was something that wasn't encouraged for them or felt that they couldn't do it. So that's given me my own necessity and my own opportunity. So you can always create your own necessity and opportunity and really become the entrepreneur that you potentially can be. But it does involve getting outside of your comfort zone. And that leads me to myth number 4. You need money to make money. Do you think that 25% of business owners who are immigrants came to the United States with just, carpet bags full of money? Probably not, right? They came to the United States oftentimes with just the clothes on their back. And it was the not having money that drove them to entrepreneurship, to create the money, to create the means, to create a better life for themselves and for their children. So while it certainly helps to have money to make more money, you don't need money to get started. And most people don't start businesses with piles of money. Now, there are certain industries such as a brick and mortar business, a physical business, an e-commerce business where you have to manufacture stuff, a software business where you've got to build the product that do require money to start. But there are many other kinds of businesses like making money from your knowledge and your expertise, service-based businesses, coaching, consulting that don't require any money whatsoever. So you've got to know what kinds of businesses to start with no money and no experience. But when you do, when you identify those things, you can get going. You can become an entrepreneur with just the clothes on your back. Many of people have done it before you, and many of people will do it after you. Which brings me to myth number 5, which is you need an MBA or some kind of formal training to be an entrepreneur. That is absolutely wrong. I do not have an MBA. And I've got a business that's approaching $10 million a year. I do not have formal training as an entrepreneur. I've got training from the school of life. And I gotta say that training is way more valuable than what you can get in a formal institution or a college or a certification program. And it's that training that's allowed me to train tens of thousands of people in turn to bypass the trial and error that I had to go to figure things out for myself. But that's not necessarily formal training. That's support for you as you actually build your business. It's not about going and doing a bunch of training and then learning for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years and then building a business. It's getting coaching and support in the moment as you're building a business, as you're making each decision, versus the certification and things that many people think that they need to just be qualified to start a business. You see the difference? You are ready based on who you are and what you know. And you just need support once you've made the decision to go into business to help you find the path to shortcut your process, to understand sales and marketing and product development and all those things. All right? But that's very different than putting yourself through college for 4 years or getting some kind of certification. So that's myth number 5, and I've got 5 more myths to go. But before I continue, I wanted to let you know that I've also got a free masterclass on discovering the business that you're here to build, not just the business that you can build. So really helping you identify what are the things that you need, the 7 things specifically, to build a profitable and fulfilling business. If you're thinking, you know what? I can do this. I've got this. I'm made for this. So you can see the link to check out that masterclass right here on the screen. And let me keep moving to myth number 6, which is as an entrepreneur, you only have to do what you want. And that is absolutely wrong. And this is really the distinction between most people's romantic notions of what an entrepreneur is and being a business owner. And I like to use the term business owner more than entrepreneur because I think it more realistically depicts what it's really all about. You see, the word entrepreneur is this French word meaning to undertake. And yes, as an entrepreneur, you undertake a vision. You undertake a set of projects, a couple products, marketing campaigns, all these things that are new and different. However, it also tends to convey this like romantic notion of living the laptop lifestyle on a beach somewhere drinking martinis. And yes, you can do that. And there are definitely times where I live the laptop lifestyle all over the world and enjoy the freedom that being an entrepreneur really has. But there are also so many moments that I wouldn't dare to post on Instagram because they're boring. They're me sitting right here at my computer hour after hour, day after day. And yes, all of that time buys with it so much impact, so much fulfillment, so much wealth and abundance and impact, and that knowledge of knowing that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing every single day. But it doesn't necessarily come easily, and it doesn't come without some elbow grease and a little bit of hard work. So it's important to be willing to do that. And it's not just about doing what you want when you want all the time, though you can do that. But it's also about doing things that you don't want to do, things that you feel resistance around. Because the truth is that the money is often behind the things that you resist. So everything that you want, that impact, that money, that freedom, it's behind oftentimes things that you resist doing, especially sales and marketing. Now, that brings me to myth number 7, which is as an entrepreneur, you've got to be charismatic or you've got to be the sales and marketing natural. And that is honestly not true. And I'm actually really super duper shy. So what you really need to do is be willing to learn how to become effective at sales and marketing. You don't have to be natural. You don't have to be a genius at it, but just effective. So you have to be willing to learn and ultimately willing to invest in your learning, in your growth, in the right information that's going to support you in really making this happen. Now, that brings me to myth number 8, which is entrepreneurship is all about making money. And the only thing that entrepreneurs care about is money. And that's wrong because I believe that entrepreneurship, it's about being of service. The money comes when you're of service. Now, of course, you got to understand that making money is a part of entrepreneurship and that your business needs money to survive, just like you and I need oxygen and food and water. But many people don't focus on the money first. They focus on the impact. They focus on solving problems. They focus on being of service. And those people are often called social entrepreneurs, people who become entrepreneurs to solve the big problems of the world. And you can be a social entrepreneur. You don't have to be one of those ruthless entrepreneurs that's going to do anything to make a buck. You can prioritize student success, customer experience, results, more than you prioritize the money. And that's a choice that we've made in our business, to prioritize our students, our clients, your success over our profit. And those are all choices that you get to make as an entrepreneur. Which leads me to myth number 9, which is, as an entrepreneur, you don't work for anyone. And that is absolutely wrong, because as an entrepreneur, you work for 2 people. You work for your audience, delivering your promises to them, supporting them in getting the results they wanted, solving the problem they wanted to solve when they invested in you. And you ultimately work for yourself. And neither your audience or yourself are easy bosses. Both of them may be more challenging than the boss that you may have or you used to have that you really hated, right? But sometimes it's the devil that you choose, right? And that makes all of the difference. But here's the thing. MARCIA WEIDER, who's a coach, says that in business, you've got to soften your heart and toughen your skin. So that means that you've got to be open to feedback, open to sharing, open to being vulnerable and being of service, but at the same time, not letting criticism, not letting mistakes, not letting challenges get to you and shut you down. But 55% of US small business owners, they actually start a business so they don't have to be accountable to anyone else. And if that's your primary motivation, be careful. Because I would say that you have even more accountability in a business than you do in a job. Because you're accountable to all the people you serve. You're accountable for delivering on your promises, for delivering a great experience, for delivering results. And at the end of the day, you are accountable for that. Not your boss, not the company you work for, but you. So if you want to start a business so you don't have to be accountable, then watch out. Because as an entrepreneur, you're more accountable, but that can also be incredibly liberating because you get to design the experience. You get to design and solve the problem in the way that you want to, in the way that you believe is right, and in a way that serves your audience better than any other solution out there. So if that excites you, then awesome. Entrepreneurship is for you. But it doesn't necessarily have to be your everything, which brings me to myth number 10, which is that entrepreneurs find all their fulfillment from their business. And that is absolutely wrong. Just like a single person, your partner, your lover, whatever it happens to be, can't check every single box for you. No single business can check every single box for you either. I was speaking to a friend and a colleague, Suzanne Evans, who's been in this industry, I think going on 20 years now. And this is an industry, online marketing, online business, that people don't always have 20-year careers. They try it out, but not many people are in there for like the 10, 20-year category. And I often say that years online are kind of like dog years because things move fast, they change fast, and it takes a lot to build this kind of business. So I asked her, Suzanne, how have you been around for 18 years in this industry when so many other people do it for 3 or 4 or 5 years and then they quit? They go do something else. And she said, the reason why I'm able to do this is because I treat my business like a job, where I show up, I do the work, and then I log off and I go home. And I don't expect my business to do everything for me. I've got other interests. She's got a family. She loves to travel. I think she loves to cook. So she has all these interests outside of the business that feed her, so she doesn't feel like all of her creativity and all of her fulfillment and all of her purpose has to come for her business. She's got life outside of business. Because here's the thing, you are a business owner, not just an entrepreneur. And part of being a business owner is doing things that maybe are work and that even feel like work, that aren't necessarily fun, but that deliver on those bigger picture things that you've always wanted. Like impact, like wealth, like freedom, like doing what you're here to do. So entrepreneurship can absolutely deliver all of that, but you've got to go in with your eyes wide open and understand what it's there to give and what it can't give, and what you need to expect to give and who you need to become along the way to get what it is that you really want. Because so many people fall in love with the dream of being an entrepreneur, but aren't willing to accept the reality of doing what it takes to become successful and to become fulfilled through your business. But when you can embrace all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, you are on your path to all of those things, to the freedom, to the wealth, to the impact. And personally, I wouldn't make any other choice. This is what I was born to be doing. And I have a sense that you know whether you were born to do this too. So don't let your fears stop you, but do go in with your eyes wide open. So I've got a few more videos here to support you in really making this choice to go all in as an entrepreneur. If you are an entrepreneur, eliminating some of the fear and the doubt and the procrastination that may hold you from going all in. All right, to you following your path in life, to you living your message, keep watching. I look forward to supporting you.